Hello, beautiful people. It's your girl Neyssa with XPansive Taste. So, here we expand our realities to ultimate greatness and learn to receive the best out of life. And today, I'm talking about how once upon a time I used to hate feminism. So, this was about when I was probably 17 or 18, definitely still in high school. And I hated feminism for multiple reasons, but I believe that switch started to happen when I learned something that was kind of a mistruth. So this started when everybody was like talking about the gender wage gap. This was like a very loud conversation. I think the year might have been like 2015. And so whenever I get information, I like to research and actually see, how much more can I learn about this because it's exciting information. I'm like, "Ooh, I wonder how deep does this go?" And I didn't approach it in like through a critical lens, but I was just really curious. I learned that the gender wage gap does exist, but not necessarily for the same reasons that people were saying it existed. It's not that men and women will work the same jobs in the same positions and get paid differently. It's more so because women in general, once they start to have families, they will work less hours. Typically, once a woman starts a family and has kids, she's going to work less hours because she has, kids to take care of. She's not going to prioritize time spent at work quite like a man would. So, when the kids need to be picked up from school because they're sick, she's more likely to be the one to take off work to pick the kid up. And the thing is, like, women in their 20s and men in their 20s, like, they actually out earn men, and they far exceed men in the workplace just because, we're that amazing. Yeah, but we tend to do a whole lot better than men, in our 20s. But it's right when, like, the 30s, that's when you notice the difference because at that time, most women are married, most women have kids, and they have to prioritize their families. Meanwhile, men don't really have that same kind of responsibility and they can progress in their workplace and, get ahead of you in that way. Literally, it's against the law for companies to just pay men and women differently because of, reasons of sex. But if we did want to make a difference, then we should be encouraging companies to not punish women for working less hours and, yeah, possibly just make it not so difficult for people to have families. And yeah, there's a different kind of conversation that needs to be had if that's what the goal is. It's not simply that women get paid less no matter what. That's a deceiving thing to say. So that was one of the first things that really made me question feminists and some radical feminists out there. But also it just seemed like a lot of the things that the feminism movement were moving towards, it felt like it was just nitpicking and man hating, and like weird terms started popping up like manspreading and mansplaining. So it was like, it felt like, I don't know, it felt annoying. Like, really, like, this is what you want to fight for? Men spreading their legs and taking up space because, I don't know, they have testicles. It just felt like they were making problems out of nothing. And that especially annoyed me because I know that in other countries, like, women aren't allowed to drive, women aren't allowed to vote. There's genital mutilation going on with female circumcision, which is like one of the things that it makes me so angry. And there's also like child brides, and it's like these are the things that we should be focusing on if we're going to claim feminism, not men explaining things to you in their way, assuming that you're dumb. First of all, they're not telling you you're dumb. You're just thinking that they're telling you that you're dumb. That's an insecurity thing. And I guess this was the start of like PC culture where things that we said just have to be so heavily monitored and ridiculed. A lot of feminists would make it a point to talk about certain kind of like misogynist jokes, and they talk about terms that are being used as like with negative connotation, like calling people pussy was a problem, using like you act like a girl or you run like a girl as a major insult. And I don't know, it just felt like it feels like it's something you're just supposed to shrug off, but they made it into a big deal. These kind of complaints to me sounded both childish and hypocritical. Like, you can't call anyone a pussy, but no one's saying anything about calling people dickwads. So to me, it just felt like what was being fought for was kind of pointless. The third problem I had was when people were preaching that, men and women are the same and we can do the same things and it doesn't matter and there should be no gender roles or limitations. My opinion is that men and women are not the same. We are equal. We are both equal to one another, but we are not the same. We are equal, but we are different. And it's okay for us to be different. We are different in biology and in the ways that we think. We are different in the ways that we communicate. It's not just a social construct, it is scientific. Now, this does not mean that if you're a girl that you have to wear pink and you have to like playing with Barbie dolls, and that if you are a boy that you have to like sports and playing video games. You are allowed to like whatever you like, but what I was not okay with is the idea being that we had to push each other to be in each other's spaces, or, push each other to just try things that really we're not interested in. Back when I was in high school, I was watching a TED Talk about a woman who was an engineer, and she spoke about how only 11% of engineers are women. And she spoke about it like it was a problem. And I don't really see that as a problem, like, she was saying it was a problem. And schools did try to get on board with this and encourage more women to be in STEM. And what happened was that it didn't matter how much they tried to convince women to be in STEM, they just didn't want to be there as much as the men wanted to. So I feel like when we look at these kind of numbers, we shouldn't just assume that the minority is automatically the percentage that is like suffering in this. It could just mean that women don't like engineering as much as men do, and that's okay. That really is just one example. There are plenty fields that are male dominated and plenty others that are female dominated. And what that tells us is that men and women, on average, will value different things, and that's okay. Now, the first three reasons I gave you, those are mostly the reasons why I was side eyeing the movement, why I was questioning the movement. But reason 4 and 5, that's when I really started to hate it. So the fourth reason why I started hating feminism is because I felt like the movement was completely devaluing femininity. It's like they were telling me that everything that made me a woman was negative and was lesser than, and that in order to be respected in this world, I had to be like a man. And I really did not sit well with that. You couldn't be submissive, you couldn't be agreeable, you couldn't smile. Of all things, we weren't allowed to smile for whatever reason. We had to be assertive and competitive, and all these attributes that were associated with masculinity. It suddenly had to be what women had to be, and I didn't like that. Women were shamed for wanting to shave their body hair and for liking cute things, liking to dress up, for being stay at home moms, for prioritizing their families. It just seemed like anything that was related to a certain gender role. If there was ever a time that this particular thing was assigned to a gender role, it was automatically wrong and you had to do the complete opposite. And I know that just as much as there is power and strength in masculinity, there is also power and strength in femininity. Just because men do it that way doesn't mean that women aren't able to harvest that kind of power and strength within their own ways. Like I don't really know exactly how to explain this in this kind of video because I have a lot of different topics to cover. But my general belief is that there's so much power in being a woman, and there are so many different ways that you could use this kind of power. And yeah, it's a wonderful, great thing to be a woman, and you don't have to be like a man to be respected. Reason number 5 as to why I hated feminism was the sexual revolution. It became very popular to believe that things like body count doesn't matter, and that a woman is allowed to sleep with whoever she wants, whenever she wants, however often she wants, and she shouldn't be judged for it. And of course, we hear this and we want it to be true. But we we try this out. We experience this. We experiment with this idea, and we get hurt with this idea. There probably are a certain amount of women who are desensitized enough to sleep with whoever and not have any feelings attached to that. Those women exist, but that is not most of us. Most of us, when we heard that sex is no big deal, and then we tested it out to see if it really is no big deal, we learned that I don't know, it kind of is. It kind of is a big deal. And it hurts to share your body with people who don't care about you. And it hurts to be in a situationship, and it hurts to sleep with others and know that they don't know your name, or that they don't care about you, or that they don't want a relationship with you. Experiencing that kind of rejection over and over again, it hurts over time. It hurts the first time, honestly, and it just keeps hurting. It never stops hurting. It felt like that was one of the biggest poisons that ever came out of feminism. The idea that women can just sleep around and have sex with anybody and it won't matter. Even though no dude called me a slut, no dude told me that, I shouldn't be sleeping around, no dude shamed me or made me feel like I shouldn't be sleeping around. It was all internal. It was literally all internal. It did not sit right with me. And I know that my friends that were also engaging in the same behavior, they were getting hurt over and over again because they kept sharing their body with someone and they were hoping for something romantic and they just kept getting rejected. Even if you didn't even want a romantic relationship with them, just the fact that you slept with them still hurt you in some way because you know that it was kind of meaningless. It wasn't just a thing you could do with someone else when you were horny. It was like, you walked away from it and, maybe you had fun in the moment, but like you walk away and you're just like, that was yucky. Like, why? Like, I don't like this person. Why is he around me? Like, why did I give him so much? And I'm about to get real deep. Trigger warning, I'm going to talk about sexual assault. I especially was hurt when I decided to have my first friends with benefit. Yeah, so he and we weren't dating, but he lived around my neighborhood and, he was easy access, whatever. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to start getting freaky. I'm sorry. I shouldn't make jokes. I was 17. But yeah, I started to do that with him, and it wasn't our first time, but eventually, by time number whatever, he ended up raping me. It was like a situation where we started it out. It was a situation where it started as consensual, and then I started to get uncomfortable, and I told him to stop and try to walk away, and then yeah, I wasn't able to walk away because he raped me. And yeah, in that situation, I really did blame myself. And yeah, it was like I couldn't understand why he would do that to me because, I wasn't thinking, oh, he's evil. I was thinking, oh, I'm worthless. Like he did it to me because I'm worthless and, I don't deserve anything better. And so it led me across many paths, but I especially became promiscuous, especially after that, because I was just trying to constantly seek approval and validation from men because, any situation with men was better than that. And if I could get any kind of like, respect or get a guy to show me any kind of love or any kind of attention that was above that vibration of, you're worthless, like that was enough for me. And yeah, I just freely gave it away. I freely slept around because I just needed some validation, something to tell me that I wasn't worthless. But it didn't really fix anything. Only God fixed that for me. And I'll talk more about my testimony. Actually, I've talked about some of it in this book. My book, Missed the Point. It's on Amazon. So go ahead and buy that if you want to read my whole story about when I was in college and, when I was fooling around, being a little thought. Um, but yeah, I constantly tried to prove to myself that I was worth something and that, men were going to treat me right eventually. But it didn't really work out that way. And so I feel like the best situation would have just like been to learn how to set boundaries and protect myself rather than just assume that, all the guys are going to be on board and treat me like a queen. If the guy never has to work to earn that kind of spot in your life to earn getting to sleep with you, then he won't try. He really will not try. He will not care. He will not put any effort. Guys don't like things that are easy, and if it's too easy for him to sleep with you, then he's probably not going to treat you right. And that is my overall experience. Not every guy, but for the most part, most guys, once you sleep with them, they don't treat you right. So I did feel like I was really hurt and lied to by, this thought. And I even after that, like, I didn't like how the feminists will talk about this issue. I didn't like how they talked about rape. One thing for sure, I did not like the word victim. I already felt so small and so worthless in that situation that, the victim, that I did not want to claim that. That was the last thing I wanted to feel. Just made my skin crawl. It made my skin feel itchy. Made me want to rip it out like, ew, I'm not a victim. I didn't like that they were saying that we were scared and defenseless and having a hard time moving on and that our lives were ruined. And yeah, that just made me so angry because it was like, how dare you say that about me? I'm not defenseless. My life isn't ruined. Like, there's nothing ruined about me. And so that those words, it I don't feel like it helped. It wasn't empowering. Like, instead of like, I didn't like the way they used us as I don't know. I don't know the right word, but I felt like they were using us to make certain points, and it just felt so wrong. Like, instead of saying that we're somehow experiencing something that is so much lesser than, like, try to like empower us in a way, make us feel strong. Don't tell us that we're defenseless and that our lives are ruined. Like, fuck you, honestly. And right now I don't completely hate feminism at all, even concerning the topic of rape. Like, I do appreciate that they, spoke up about date rape. I did like how they started conversations about date rape and how you can't consent to sex under the influence of alcohol. Those were important things to talk about. It was mostly just certain voices that were the loudest. They were causing some problems, and they weren't really, it was overall a very imperfect movement. It's still not completely in the right space because, there is still some man hating going on. And there are some people who really are just against family and femininity, and really against people who value having children and growing their families over their career. And, women choosing to be a stay at home mom. So that's something is still an issue that, some feminists are not completely accepting about. A lot of women are choosing to decenter men and devalue men, and try to live life independently. And I don't think that's the way to go. But, you're free to do whatever you want to do. Uh, yeah, and that is mostly all I have to say. I've ran out of space to record, so that's all I can say. And so, thank you so much for watching and making it to this point of the video. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. I have my book, Miss the Point. It's on Amazon. Again, it's about how when I was a sad whore. Um, oh my gosh, I make so many terrible jokes. Anyways, that's all, beautiful people. Thank you so much for watching. Yeah, thank you so much. I send you my love. Mwah, bisous. A little bit of this, a little